Well, good morning everybody, welcome back to Shutters and Speed. We're on a little bit of a ride round this morning. We're doing a ride that I did about a year or so ago, but got rudely interrupted by the interference of a puncture. So we're going to have another go. So, as we say here in Norfolk, let's run them their titles, boy, and I'll tell you all about it. Yeah, so welcome back to Shutters and Speed. We're going to do a ride around the Brecklands of Norfolk today. Like I said earlier, I started this ride on a previous occasion and I unfortunately got a puncture, so I had to be recovered. But I've since updated my puncture repair skills, so hopefully that scenario won't happen again. I think that's probably the first puncture I've ever had on a motorcycle. So hopefully that won't be repeated today. So what we're going to do is we're currently riding along the A134 towards Thetford or Munford. And what I'm going to do is the initial part of the ride will be through the trees, the tunnel of trees between Munford and Thetford, which I think at this time of year is quite spectacular. We're doing this ride on the first day of the 4-day Platinum Jubilee weekend, and I'm out this morning quite early because obviously I wanted as little traffic as possible, so I thought this would be a good time to do this. And there are also quite a few interesting points along the way which I hope you'll enjoy, so stay with us for the ride. As you can see, it's a really crisp, beautiful, quite cool at the moment. My temperature readout on the dash here is saying 11 degrees, which is pretty chilly for an early June morning, I guess. They were forecasting a frost last night, which I'm not sure we got here, but they reckon in some open areas that was possible. And funnily enough, here in the Brecklands, it always seems that degree or so colder than anywhere else in Norfolk. So there may well have been a touch of ground frost last night. Yes, we're also going to hook when we get to the beginning of these trees. Hopefully, if things turn out okay, we may well get the 360 camera out and give that a whirl and get some decent footage of that as we go around. So I'm taking a fairly relaxed ride. I'm just cruising along here at the legal limit, 60. Yes, the other thing that we're doing today is we're filming in a slightly higher resolution. Up until this point I've done all my filming in 1080p, but we're now gone up today to 2.7K, which obviously is a higher resolution, so that'll be very interesting to see how that turns out. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about how YouTube handles videos and how they downscale them or upscale them or whatever. So that'll be another interesting point along the learning circle or train, as it were, because as you all know, probably I'm relatively new to this, so it's all a learning curve for me, and it's all very interesting. I do enjoy the technical side of it, and I hope I don't go on about it too much. I hope the camera's picking up those piggies on the right hand side. The old pig farmers are going through a bit of a rough patch at the moment, as I suppose a lot of people are, but they are a lot of farms are closing down, but this one seems to be thriving, so that's good. The other thing that's been of note this year is how the crops are developing so early. I mean, on my left here we have a field of what looks like barley, And here we are on the what 2nd of June, and it's already starting to look very advanced, which is you know, quite unusual. It'll be interesting to see how that affects the crop quality. Yeah, so we're now approaching we're now going through the village of Munford here in Norfolk, and we're coming up to the Munford roundabout, and then we're going to be heading up through the tunnel of trees. They tend to go off quite quickly, so I'm hoping I'm going to catch them at their very best. So we're just going to pull over here in a moment or two, hook up the old 360 camera, and then see how we get on. Well, you join me back now on the A11. This is on a little short blast down the dual carriageway here, which is part of the route that I take on this particular ride. This is a little boring, so we won't be, you know, I am filming, but I'm filming just to test this mount out, because at some point or other I'm going to want to use this along faster roads, so I have to do it sometime or other. And so far so good. Yeah, so we'll be coming off this road fairly shortly, and then we'll be taking another twisty A road towards the town of Watton in the middle heart of the Brecklands of Norfolk. Yep, the A1075. You'll have probably noticed the HM prison on that signpost. That is the Wayland prison, and that is where there's some notorious criminals been there in their time, not least of which was I think it was Reggie Cray. He was there until he died, or no, I tell a lie, he was there and he was released with he had about 18 months left, I believe, of his life left, as it were. He didn't know that when he was released, but he's released on health grounds. But he spent quite a bit of his sentence here in the middle of the Brecklands here in Norfolk. As you can see, that pig farming takes up a lot of the land around here. It's a very light sandy soil in this area, which is very free draining, which is very good for keeping piggies dry, but also for growing certain crops, certain root crops like carrots or potatoes, that kind of thing, and it's really quite useful for that. Yeah, so probably alongside my usual trip to Hunstanton, this is another route that I take quite regularly, and it's you know, I hope you're enjoying the ride. It's quite an enjoyable sweeping sort of route, and it's nice to come out on it early on a bank holiday morning. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm filming this in the this is the Thursday of the Jubilee weekend, and you know, we are hopefully going to pay homage to the Queen this weekend. I for one think she does a fantastic job for us as a country, and I wish her all the best. I shall probably be watching the television later on, because for not least of which is I'm a bit of an aviation fan, I guess, and I shall be looking to see how the old fly past pans out. My wife and I spent 2 or 3 days up in Lincolnshire recently, and we were fortunate to watch the rehearsal, which was quite good. They all flew over in their various guises, and we spent a very interesting day at the East Kirkby Aviation Museum and watched the old Lancaster fire up, which was great to see. Maybe if things work out okay, I might put a picture up here somewhere for you to have a look at. And indeed, they are holding a bike night there fairly soon, and I'm going to probably have a word with my mate Tony. Regular viewers will remember Tony from the Yorkshire trip we did last year, and when you go to those sort of events, it's always quite nice to have somebody with you, so hopefully we will be able to get together and give that a go, because I think that'll be a very interesting evening. This area of the Brecklands in Norfolk is home to what is known locally as the battle area. A lot of the land around here is owned by the MOD, and there's an awful lot of manoeuvres and the like goes on. So obviously there's quite a close affinity really with the army and the armed forces and the local people. So you know, that's great to see too. You're winding your way through some of these quiet Norfolk villages. It's really quite pleasant. Probably another couple of hours or so there'll be a lot more traffic around, so you know, you've got to get out early and enjoy these roads at their best when you can. I know I've mentioned this many times before, but when you're in these sort of areas here in Norfolk, wildlife can be a problem, especially on quiet days. One of the upsides of the traffic being heavy, or relatively heavy, is that you can be assured that the likelihood of a deer popping out in front of you is probably less. So whilst it's very easy to enjoy swinging through these, you know, bends on these relatively well surfaced roads, you do have to be careful. So, you know, adopt a degree of caution. That doesn't mean you can't have a bit of fun swinging around through here. Fantastic. I mentioned in an earlier video about this quad lock system I have installed on the old Yamaha here, and I met up with a chap called Brian at a recent ride I had to Hunstanton, and if you're watching, Brian, I can tell you that the quad lock system works very well. I've had no problems with it at all. I've even got to stay there, mister. There's a good chap. Yeah, we have eye contact. Great stuff. Yes, Brian, it's going very well, and I'm even getting quite proficient at putting it on, putting the thing on and off. Like a lot of things that are new, you don't always get it right first time. And I'm almost as good as Charlie Boorman when it comes to switching the thing on and off the system, so to speak. But it does work very well, and I would thoroughly recommend that anybody who's considering one of these systems gets the dampener system as well to protect your phone, especially if you've got one of these latest all singing all dancing iPhones, which I've recently upgraded to. I've actually got it mounted here on my on a existing RAM mount that I had for my TomTom sat nav, which I do use that if I'm on any long journeys, because I find that's a bit more reliable, especially if you're going deep into deepest Norfolk, where the old mobile signal is not perhaps what it should be. So I find that's quite useful to have. Well, what a glorious morning to be out on a motorbike. Fantastic. I can remember back in the sort of towards the end of the lockdown period, where travel was very much restricted, I had a wedding album to deliver out in this area, and I couldn't post it because even the postage people stopped. And although it might have been a little naughty, I did jump on the old bike to deliver that. And the roads were completely empty, absolutely marvellous. You know, it seemed like you had the whole countryside to yourself, and what a joy that was. And it's sort of very similar right now, really. There is a few cars coming the other way, but on my side of the road everything seems to be very quiet. And you know, I do find that it's a good idea to get out and about early. I am a bit of an early riser. I'm not one of these people who stays in bed in the mornings, and I do get out early. And what a series of bends we've got here. Wow. The one thing that is quite problematic also in this part of Norfolk, just back there I noticed that on a nice sweeping bend you've got a great gouge taken out of the road, and some of the heavy agricultural equipment that these arable boys use nowadays really does sometimes gouge into the tarmac, and if you catch that on a bend, that can be a little heart stopping if you're not sure what, you know, if you're not prepared for it, so to speak. So I suppose you need to be very aware of all surface conditions, of course, but that does give you the old heebie-jeebies sometimes. Yeah, so we're now going through the town of Watton, right in the middle of Norfolk. As you can see, like most towns these days, there's an awful lot of building work going on. It does make you wonder where all these people come from to fill these houses sometimes. 176 for a litre of unleaded. Regular viewers will remember my reaction when I pulled up at that that petrol station at Scotch Corner with my mate Tony last year, and that was $1.55 a litre, I remember, and I thought, my word, that's pricey. Little did I know what was going to happen. Wow. Still, never mind. Yeah, so we're right in the centre of Watton, and we're going to be taking a left and then heading out towards Swaffham, which is part of the route, and then when we get to Swaffham we'll be heading back towards Downton Market and home. So hopefully that will have been a decent ride, but there's a lot more to enjoy once we get out of Watton, so hopefully everybody will be still on board then and can enjoy that part of the ride. Watton, like most towns, seems well prepared for the Jubilee celebrations. All the bunting is up and the flags. It's always nice to be a little patriotic from time to time. Just up here on the right hand side we have the Norfolk Triumph dealership. When I changed to this machine 4 years ago, I did consider, and there we are, there's Norfolk Triumph. I did consider a Triumph Tiger Sport, but opted for this model instead. But I have to say I found them very helpful. Went out for a great test ride on a Triumph Tiger Sport, which is great. And of course around here there's plenty of twisty roads for you to enjoy and try the thing out. Yep, so we're going to be heading out of Watton on the B1108 towards Swaffham. Yeah, so here we are coming out of Watton on another nice piece of road, keeping out nice and wide to the left, get the good view around the corner, and we'll straighten the road out a bit. Fantastic. Good view ahead. Taking a nice left-hand position here. Got a good view through the corner. Power through. Keeping a mid-lane position here. We're coming up over a slight crest. View ahead is a bit limited, so keeping the view for safety. Now have a good view. Road is going round to the left. Oncoming traffic, so keeping a mid-lane position. And a junction ahead. Junction's clear, so we'll go out to the right-hand side. Good view around the corner. Keeping a mid-lane position. Coming over to the left. We're now coming back into the battle area again, and we will soon be approaching Bodney Camp. I can just see it over there in the distance. Yes, now on your left here we can see some horse jumps. And this area is where the household cavalry come for their summer vacation. They spend a few weeks here at Bodney, and then they take the horses down to Holcombe Beach on the North Norfolk coast for a little splash in the water, which, you know, with all, bearing in mind how the pomp and ceremony that all goes with the household cavalry and what they do when they're down in London, it must be really nice to come out here and let the hair down, have a little run around on the old jumps there, and then down to Norfolk, North Norfolk, for a little splash on the in the sea there. And that attracts quite a bit of attention for the locals. There's nothing that they you know, it sort of further cements this bond there is between the military and the local people. And they all love to see the horses running through the water down there at Holcombe. Another quite interesting series of bends here. bit bumpy, but not too bad. And you can just enjoy the ride. There we go. Fantastic. Another one of these tree tunnels. Hopefully the 360 footage that we took earlier coming from Munford to Thetford has worked out okay, and obviously by now you've hopefully seen some, so that'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. So there we go. Right, so we're now coming off the B1106 and we're going to rejoin the 1065 and we're going to be heading towards Swaffham. Probably saw that paintball sign on the side of the road there, and that is the other thing that is done quite a lot here in this part of Norfolk. Not only have we got the battle area and the military training, so to speak, but there's also a lot of land that has been turned over to leisure use for paintball. So if you ever fancy a lash at that, this is a good place to come to do it. We have the Swan Inn, very nice country pub in a lovely spot. I hope by now that you can actually see why I enjoy this road so much. All these lovely sweeping bends that we have to negotiate. Fantastic. Must be mindful, of course, of oncoming traffic and all the other obstacles that might come in our way, but that doesn't stop us from enjoying the ride. So, having had quite an exhilarating ride really through those bends there on the way here to Swaffham, we are now approaching the town of Swaffham. It looks a bit deja vu almost, with the approach from this end is very similar to the one when we came into Watton, which is quite interesting. Regular viewers will remember that when we done the Norfolk ride we mentioned the television series Kingdom, and we said that the town of Wells next to sea on the Norfolk coast was part of the scene, if you like. But the front area and the town centre area was all filmed here in Swaffham, and when we go through the town hopefully we'll get a view of Roger Kingdom's office. If you ever remember that series, quite a while ago now, 2007, 2008, something like that, but you know, I enjoyed it and I hope maybe one or two of you did as well. Swaffham is a town that it's pretty close to my heart, I guess. I used to spend a lot of time here with my motorcycling buddies back in the day, with regular visitors to here on a Saturday morning. We used to congregate outside the local motorbike shop. Iceni Motorcycles it was called. Bought one or two bikes off him. I bought my first moped there actually, my first Yamaha Fizzy. And the chap who used to run it, a chap called Greg Page, is still around, I believe. If you're watching, Greg, hope you're keeping well. And it was always a great time. I always felt, you know, there's the motorcycle industry sort of went into decline pretty soon after I left, I guess. But then in the sort of late mid-90s it sort of seemed to come back again. But by then, unfortunately, I think Iceni Motorcycles had ceased to trade, which is all very unfortunate. There are, of course, very good dealerships sprung up in its place, but you know, the one that I always remember Iceni here in Swaffham, and that was great to come and see everybody and catch up. And on our left here, I hope the camera's picking that up and I can see, you can see it, that's where Roger Kingdom's office was. Yeah, so as we head out of Swaffham, you will, we're going to be rejoining another section of dual carriageway, very short section, and then we'll be rejoining the 1122 back towards Downham Market and home. So we're going to blend our way onto the A40. This is the A47 Swaffham bypass, and nice smooth bit of dual carriageway. Another local legend, if you like, maybe for all the wrong reasons, but you may remember Michael Carroll, the lottery millionaire. Well, he used to live in a house, one of these houses down here somewhere, and I can remember a documentary back being made there by him and a chap called Keith Allen, and they were roaring around the garden there racing cars around his yard, which was quite funny. I also know that you know, during his time, he used to spend a lot of time in this restaurant here on the left hand side. I don't know if it's actually open now. It doesn't look very sort of prosperous, it has to be said. So yeah, so we're going to go down the 1122 now towards Down at Market and head for home. So that'll be hopefully quite enjoyable too. Looks like they've been out with the old chippings here, but they look fairly well bedded, and they've remarked the road, which is great. So managed to avoid those. Chippings at this time of the year are the bane of a motorcyclist's life, and they can ruin a fantastic ride sometimes when they're being put down. Obviously this work has to be done, of course. You know, roads have to be maintained, but you know, if you go out for a ride and you get caught in a bit of that, then your ride is ruined, really. Yeah, so we'll soon be retracing our steps on more familiar territory, so I don't want to take you through that. You'll have seen this. You won't have seen this part of the route much, but the end part you will. So I'm going to, I think, call a halt to proceedings here and now. So I hope you enjoyed this little ride around central Norfolk and the Brecklands. And I hope you've enjoyed some of the interesting points along the way, and hopefully we've got some nice 360 footage to have a look at as well. So without further ado, I hope you, like I said earlier, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, then obviously hit the like and subscribe, which is always very helpful, and it keeps you up to date with what's going on the channel in the future. We have got one or two exciting little plans, so hopefully that'll come to fruition and everything will be hunky-dory. So this is Shutters and Speed signing off for now, and we'll see you in the next video. So bye-zy bye.